Hey, gorgeous people. I'd really love to introduce you to an amazing woman, Steena. Hello, Steena.
Hi, Ingrid.
So today we're going to chat about Steena's ascension, and she's had an amazing, beautiful journey. She's a highly talented woman that I've had the pleasure of working with over about the last 16 months. So Steena, tell me what it was like to first start working with me and where you were at that time.
Mm. When we first started working together, I was more focused on life coaching, and I wasn't really finding like my fire and that thing that set me apart. And I'd worked with other coaches, but really had never gotten traction. So it felt like I was doing all of the right things. I was checking all of the boxes, but my business wasn't really moving forward. And it just felt like I needed somebody who knew how to lovingly kick my ass and also give me, a real strategy, and not just tell me to go post in Facebook groups or, do more, but who could actually make my time more potent so that it would move my business forward, at really an exponential rate. Because as a mom and, having a husband and just a life, you don't have more time to just hustle harder.
I know. Oh my gosh, I know it myself. So, what were some of the key things and shifts that happened working together with us? Like, what was that journey like? So,
Yeah, so when we first started working, so this is a long time now, right? 16
it's
months. I mean,
mhm.
so much has happened and changed. And, you supported me in really solidifying my work. At the time, I was launching like my high priestess work and supporting women in sexual empowerment, which is still very much part of just who I am and how I support people. But that at that time really focused on that kind of coaching relationship and my healing work and energy healing, and really packaging up that service in a way that felt really rich and that I was excited to offer to people. Um, it's different than just selling one-off sessions or trying to like give people discounts on things to get them to buy, and to really fully stand in the power of my work and to, create a group program around that and be able to really deeply serve and then see people transform. Um, and then over the course of doing all of that, I was learning how to set up my funnels, and I was putting my copywriting skills and my graphic design skills and all of these things to work for myself. And so over that time now, having kind of shifted and pivoted my business so that now I'm supporting women in doing that for their businesses. And so really getting into deep strategy, their voice, their messaging, and how that can be leveraged through a funnel. The funnel isn't necessarily the magic antidote to all of their problems, but you and I both know it's about the message and the strategy and really the heart and soul behind what we put out there in the world.
So I think that's a really wonderful journey and story. And I think it's sometimes hard to even articulate the power of the work, because you've learned, like, whilst you already had a lot of talent, you're highly creative and a gifted healer and mystic. You've learned a lot of those deep marketing skills. I can't even talk today. Marketing skills through high-end empire. Is that true?
Mm, absolutely. Yeah. And, the thing that really struck me the most about your program, well, one thing is like every call that we had, I was like, I'm going to be there, because I knew that, showing up and like being in your space and being with the other women in the program and just like really taking it in was just so important. Like catching the
Mhm.
replay was sure fine, but actually being there with you and, getting like some of the laser coaching where it's just like even a few ideas that you would throw out, like just sets you off on this whole other path where, you have that ability to really like see really clearly and quickly where someone is at, and to just maybe it's just an outline of something or a few like live stream title ideas or something that you would give to me or even to one of the other women in the program, and it just is, it's so potent, and it just allows you to really shift quickly so that you can go put those things into action, and then followed up with really practical strategy and support. So it's not just like, here's a 5-step thing, but, here's actually what it's going to take to get you from point A to point B. Here's the team that you need to put into place, and really the tools. Like it's all there, there's not like a layer or a level that's not covered. It's the energy and vibration, the mindset, the lifestyle, and just that, like, the deep energetic support that's required, but then also covering, the real strategy behind it, because you can't just sit there and meditate all day and magically manifest $1 million business.
No, exactly. So one of the things is we're having this conversation and I'm looking at you and you're this divine, wonderful creature. You look so, at peace and comfortable in your own skin, articulating your growth and your voice. Was it like that at the beginning when you first came to work with me?
No. In short, no. I've always been a performer. So like being on video isn't uncomfortable for me by nature. One thing that I've noticed though is that the shift for me was like, sure, I can get on video and perform, right? I can get on video and look good and sound good and kind of put off almost like a character or a persona. But I remember for so long, you're like, Steena, like there's a veil. And I remember you saying like, there's a veil what's going on with the veil? Like we need to drop this veil. You're not letting people fully see you. And I think such a big part of that is fully seeing ourselves. Mm-hmm. And, we go through so much of our lives, like not actually seeing our own brilliance or seeing our own talent or skills or beauty. And to make that shift it comes through in everything. Then it comes through in my writing. It comes through in the way that I serve, it comes through in the way that I show up on video, where, now like I'm just here, like we're just having a chat. And I feel so much more in touch with that authentic presence instead of feeling like I have to perform or be someone else or, show up as something. It's just me. It's just Steena.
And just you and just Steena is brilliant and beautiful. And it's so wonderful to see. And it makes other people feel comfortable because the energy is great because you're at peace with your own self. Isn't that? And it's interesting. We don't have to force it then, do we? But we're not usually conditioned to believe that we have to put it on or we have to be something that we're not in order to be successful. And rather what you're beautifully expressing is it's just coming home to self and seeing ourselves. Then when we can really see and own that we have enough, the lovability, the deservability, the deep sense of also divinity that we have within, we can then claim it and express that externally, right? As you would agree, I'm sure. So having said all of that, tell us a little bit about what's been happening for you financially over the last couple of months, because the trajectory over the last few months has been rapid and really fast because you shifted only a couple of months ago. It's probably about 4 months ago now. Can you tell me what you're doing and what your life is like now, the type of clients you're working with and how that feels?
Mm-hmm. Well, it clearly feels like goosebumps because I just got covered in goosebumps when you asked me that. The last 4 months have been unreal. Like, before that, things were okay and I was doing well and I was showing up and, slowly get like moving. It was like December of last year when, it was like go all in or die. And the death was like, I'm just gonna go get a job. Like I was literally at the point of like, I just can't handle this anymore. I love my work. I loved the transformations that I was seeing in women, but it just like wasn't enough. And I was just spent. And I think we've all been on that like cusp of burnout. We were just chatting before this about in December, I was completely sick for 2 weeks. Like I could not like get on the computer and write an email. And I just had this moment of like, I'm done with this, no more in bed for 2 weeks and no more in bed for 2 weeks, freaking out about like, how are the bills going to get paid because I need to take time off. And I just knew that either something had to change or I was just going to continue to spiral into like this hole. And, you know, having worked with you and like being surrounded by women who are in their power and who are speaking their truth and are making things happen, there's like kind of a little like a little inner voice or like this conviction that comes up where you're like, no, this is not who I am. Like, I am not the victim. You know, I'm not a victim to my life and my circumstances. And so in that time, what I realized was that, you know, the skill set that I had grown to be able to help women, like practically setting up funnels and designing and copywriting and all of that, really made so much sense to combine that with my passion for women speaking their truth and healing their connection to their voice and being able to be visible and really, you know, connecting with their audience and their clients and forming those relationships. Those are all things that I was teaching before, you know, connection, communication, relationships. And so putting all of that together was like the magic bullet for me. The kinds of clients that I've been able to work with in the last 4 months are people that value that. Like, in short, it's like I started to value what I had to offer. And so the people that I'm working with also value what I have to offer. And, you know, that has been, you know, my prices have more than doubled over that time, because each project, it's like I finish the project, I'm blown away at what's created. And, you know, and then the next divine client comes along and it's like, now I value it even more. I've seen what I'm capable of. I've seen the level of results that I, you know, provide and the level of service. And it's just incredible to feel that shift where, you know, you're looking at, like, I'm looking at something I did 4 months ago. And I'm like, at the time, charging, say, $2,000 for that package felt like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And now, you know, that's more like what, an $8,000 or $10,000 package, because you just continue to grow and ascend and get to the place where you can, you know, put that price on it and it feels divine. It feels really nourishing to you. It feels like, you know, your client is going to rise to be served at that level and they're going to value what you're providing for them. And there's just no feeling in the world like that. Like, just feeling like the exchange is really beautiful, instead of like secretly hoping that after you send someone a proposal or like information on your program, you're like, please don't buy this because I'm going to be drained if you do. Like, that feeling is terrible.
That's gone now. So can you tell people a little bit more about what it's been like? Like, what is my role been in you being able to do this at a really rapid pace and basically change the trajectory of your career, the trajectory of your financial ability to make concrete dollars? You've just sold a $20,000 package paid in full. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about people who are watching, how have I supported you in that?
Absolutely. So, you know, as I mentioned before, like, one thing that I really value about your support is that you know exactly how to laser in on what needs to be done. And I don't do well with someone who wants to like hold my hand and tell me what to do, you know, like, I don't want to be micromanaged. And I think that's true for a lot of your clients, you know, or most of them, is that it's like, I've got the goods, but I need somebody to step in and to, you know, give that trajectory, that guidance, and say, okay, now let's move.
Yeah.
And to hold that space, I think takes a really special person. So the kind of service and like responsiveness from you, from everyone on your team, from Chris, you know, doing like tech support in your programs. It's like, you never have a question that you're like, where should I ask this? You know, it's like, well, this is like your home base, your home support. It has this beautiful energy and high-end empire where you know that these are your people. And I think that the level of service that you bring and attention is like, it's unrivaled. You're delivering at such a high level. You're delivering the support the tools and just the presence. Like, I'm never like, where did Ingrid go? You know, or like, you know, didn't ever feel lost or alone, because, you know, you are following through everything that you teach, you're following through on. So you're showing up, you're speaking your truth. There's always a level of connection and presence. And I think that having that kind of relationship has been so valuable to me, because I've had coaches that, you know, they flake out on calls. They, you know, they're always like canceling things, or you get halfway through a program and it kind of drops off. Like, I've had those experiences where you're like, well, like, it was great at the beginning and you were all in, and then like we're halfway through and all of a sudden I don't really know what's going on anymore. And I think that having had, like, anybody that's watching this, like, if you've had those experiences, I guess I want to dispel any fears that, you know, that your program would be anything like that. It's just leagues above, you know, what I had experienced elsewhere. And the depth and breadth of content that is available in the program, I think, is also just unlike anything else. It's not like you're just taking a little course in Facebook ads, or a little course in, you know, funnel strategy, or a little course in like defining your ideal client or something like that. But it's really so much deeper than that in your teaching.
Thank you, darling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have gone to that depth and that level because I think that's what's needed, because giving people piecemeal or just skimming on the surface, I don't think it's enough in order to really do the deep, radical, yummy work that I'm dedicated to helping people like you and all the other girls that come in to leverage that brilliance and right, take it to the next level does take a level of, I think, deep advanced strategy and that emotional support that we talked about. So Steena, you're an absolute gem. Thank you. I want to thank you for your courage. One thing about you that I love so much, there's many things, and that could be a whole other video, but one thing that I'll say about Steena that I absolutely love, and I'm going to call it, because it's so vital in terms of success online or in life and just in general. And that is, Steena has that ability, and all of the clients that do well with me, who rock it, are always selling 200K webinars, who are having their first 50K months in a really short amount of time. Steena, her first 40K, now getting booked out for the next few months, which is amazing. I think is that ability to listen to what I'm saying and to implement as well. So I move very quickly and I give a lot of support and I hold that space. But the women who, like, there's still some women who'll be like constantly in freak out mode or constantly kind of in sabotage. And I usually then will speak to them in a pretty loving but firm way. Like, it's like, you're unraveling yourself, let's go. But when I remember at that 4 months ago, when you came to me at Christmas time, you were like, okay, this is it. And I remember specifically, I remember the day because I could feel the energy that you were, you know, eliciting that vibration through my phone. And I'm like, okay, this is what I want you to do. Go do this, go do this, do this, do this, do this, do it now. And you were like, okay. And the next minute, literally like within 48 hours or less, I think you did some specific things that I told you to do literally within 24 hours or less, or even instantly. I don't know. It was just really fast. And I'm like, okay, she's serious. Let's go. And we just started moving in that zoom, 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 zoom. Like, it's sort of forced energy. It's not like this, we've got to go. The thing is, it's like you're just so over yourself and your circumstance where you're back, you know, explained it. Like, and I've been there many times in my life. And it's actually when my business took off, where you can't lie to yourself anymore. You can't pretend. There's not one more excuse you can tell yourself because you've done all of that. You're so exhausted with your own BS. You're exhausted by your circumstance, and you're just like, okay, my back's up against the wall. I'm either going to get a job or try to run away from my family and go to Paris for the next 3 months, if I can actually afford to buy the ticket. But, you know, or I'm going to make it work. And you just ran with it, and you ran with it, and you then prospered because of that. And I know the trajectory of your next 3 months will probably be double what you've already done. And because you've actually done a lot of the harder stuff, because you've been learning now about hiring your own team and what works and what doesn't work. And you've now got your price points at a place that actually does really value you, so that, you're not like working like a dog and going into overwhelm again. So you're at a whole other level. And of course, I've been part of that. Yes, I have. And I give big and I know what the F I'm doing. However, this is always a co-creation. And so if you are contemplating working with me, don't come to work with me unless you are ready to move. You can take time off. You can work part-time. I'm not talking about hustling like a mofo. I'm talking about being deliberate, coming home to your power, and actually following through. Otherwise, it's a waste of time for everybody involved. Just not interested, because that type of level of frequency ain't for me. And also to say, because I was speaking to one of my sales girls yesterday, and she was saying, please speak to Ingrid about the ability that you don't have to be like 3 years into your career. I've got people who've come, Steena, had a lot of experience, but she didn't have a complete clear focus, and we are able to do that rapidly, right? How could you speak to that, Steena? Because some people say, maybe I need to be further along in my career to start making money, and Ingrid seems really like fierce, and I don't know if I'm ready for this. What would you say to that? Like, if they feel like they're too much of a beginner?
That's a good question. I think that for me, it's like you want to start, like you want it to be like that shotgun start, like, run the race. If you want in, get in, go all in now. I think that there's no time to waste. Like, why spend 3 years going, oh, maybe this is what I want, maybe that's what I want. And I'll say too, online, like if you're running a business online for 3 years and you're wishy-washy for 3 years, that is what people are going to know you as.
Yeah.
And you're investing 3 years in kind of like this, weak, watered down version of what's possible, versus doing, getting the right support right now, and, getting into like your high-end empire, getting yourself into a space where the vibration is there, the strategy is there, the support is there, so that you can start off on the right foot and actually be focused and clear, and spend that 3 years building something incredible. In 3 years, you could easily have $1 million business. In 3 years, you can build a reputation online that says, I am the leading, fill in the blank expert in your niche. And I think that we let ourselves, like, we're negatively patient with ourselves. Like it's too much patience, and like you said, when your back's up against the wall and you have to actually decide. I think that when I first came to work with you, I still had this, like, I want it, but I wasn't fully committed. There was a level where I was still holding that back a little bit. And I totally felt that change in December. And I remember that exchange too, where you're like, okay, da-da, here's what we need to do. And I mean, within a week, like, I'd launched my business. I had created a 14-day, little mini course. It was just ridiculous. And, you light that fire under your hiney and you get yourself moving.
It's so good. I love it. It's been absolutely an honor to see. I'm so, I'm impressed, but you're so brilliant, so it's all good. Of course, that was going to happen, but I think, you could have made the choice to stay in that kind of suffering, but you didn't. You decided, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to rise, and you made it happen. And I think the number one thing that holds so many women back is that, willingness to put up with scarcity, to put up with the suffering, to kind of just say, it's okay, it's enough, when it's actually not. Because forget about the financial stuff that we're talking about and having revenue in a business. And by the way, this is really basic, and I don't mean to be speaking down to anyone, but I didn't really get this. The real basics of business. If you're not selling consistently and you don't have the right strategy, it's the death of your business. But more than that, you are not able to share your message. You're not able to serve and do what your soul is calling you to do. So what happens? It creates not only financial poverty, but energetic and physical like poverty and suffering. So don't do it to yourself, because I'm telling you, at one point you're going to need to learn it. So what Steena is saying too is get the right support. And I think she articulated it perfectly. Get it now instead of going around and around and around in circles. And what happens is you tend to get weaker and weaker and weaker. And then you start to think there's something wrong with you. And I'm here to say there's actually nothing wrong with you, but what you're doing is not going to get you the result that you want. And so you're going to keep hitting yourself like against the wall, and it's going to be painful. So it's either get the support and rise. And it's also a shift in consciousness. It's like, okay, I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to do this properly. And I'm allowing myself to call in a deeper level of power, abundance, connection, love, and you can have it. But you can only have it and receive it when you actually get really real with yourself. Because you and I are both talking about it. We've both been there. And the reason that I can speak from this is not from a higher than thou thing. I have served literally over 200 clients. I was the woman who had her back up against the wall, who lost my company in New York due to blackmail, who had to start off from literally zero. And it was at that point exactly what Steena went through that we're articulating and expressing now, that I was like, you know what? I'm either going to quit and be some miserable stay-at-home mother, and I don't want to be that. Not that there's anything wrong with staying at home with your children, but that wasn't just for me, because that made me feel like my hands were cut off, because I'm here to express and serve and be who I am. I don't just want to be a mother, and I'm not going to rely on my husband and his whatever six-figure salary. Was nice, but you know what? We had nothing to show for it at the end of the week. Literally, I could barely afford to pay for a $40 a week babysitter. And so I had my back up against the wall and was like, okay, I know about marketing. I know about messaging. I've got to forgive myself, get over this massive loss that I went through losing my company in New York. And I've got to get over this anxiety, pull up my big girl panties. I quadrupled and then 10x'd and then 20x'd my prices. And I started doing the work that was necessary in order for me to grow a sustainable business that was actually not only going to be great for my clients because they were thriving, but so that I could thrive and nourish myself and my family and have the lifestyle that Steena mentioned, where I wasn't in this energetic suffering all the time because I was so burnt out and exhausted, right? So, and I know that you get that on such a deep level, Steena, like where we just put up with so much stuff because we've been brainwashed by society, by the patriarchy, by religion around what it is to be a good woman. And I'm here to say, claim it. If you want a great free life, if you want to be that entrepreneur who makes whatever it is, it might be 100 grand a year, 200, 500, a million, multi-millions, you have to decide and claim it for yourself. So Steena, thank you once again for your time. And it's been an absolute honor. And I know that you're such a talented diva and your whole career is just like literally, I feel like it's just the beginning. It's like a seed of something that's so mammoth. So thank you so much.